What's up, guys? It's been a while. I hope you're all doing well. I'm sorry I haven't reported or done any videos for a couple of weeks. We have been nose to the grindstone with the last few stages of the Method project, and it's actually right on the verge of release. If all goes according to plan, it'll be out next week. Holy shit. Finally happening. It's been many, many months in the making and is comprised now of a total of 26 videos, including 16 instructional videos, with a mixture of storytelling and then 10 additional bonus features, which really kind of lean a little bit more into the storytelling and backstory and have some amusing anecdotes about things that have happened along the way. So stay tuned for that, coming any day soon now. And of course, there'll be announcements in a bunch of different places. The website, very simple to remember, easy to learn, www.learndiscgolf.com. Check it out when you get a chance. Okay, I want to talk today about something that I have hinted at in other videos. I have talked about this idea of leverage, specifically biomechanical leverage, and the feedback loop that biomechanical leverage creates in proper form in giving you all of the instinctive and innate body positions that you see over and over again exhibited in the form of professionals. Biomechanical leverage lies at the heart of everything, and in fact, there'll be a video in the second chapter of the Method series called E=mc² that'll actually talk about this fundamental discovery, if you want to call it that, the fundamental underlying thing that informs not only all of pro form, but explains why it's been so elusive to feel and understand it historically. So what is biomechanical leverage? I've talked about this before in other videos, but essentially it is a locus of energy in the swing. You can feel it actually very easily when you learn to leverage your arm, which is one of the things that you start to do when you first start to watch the Method videos and you begin to understand the brace and how the brace connected to the swinging arm allows you to feel biomechanical leverage in one place. But basically what happens is as your arm accelerates and it's not stiff, you get exponential acceleration out at the end of the lever, and your arm forms this powerful three-part lever, and as you hone in on it, you begin to feel this distinctive heaviness. You begin to feel the inertial mass of your arm as it accelerates under leverage. And when you connect the disc to that, you feel it even more. And it becomes so palpable eventually that not only does the weight of the disc glue you completely into the ground, adhering you to the ground and allowing you to really push a ton of energy into the brace, but you also begin to latch onto that intention. You're able to swing harder with your legs and your arm, which makes the whole mechanism more energetic and therefore more heavy. And your brain understands that heaviness and it begins to throw the disc harder and harder and harder as you gain comfort and you don't lose your balance. So, how to actually feel this, and what does the leverage thing actually feel like? What is this weird mystical thing that you've heard described by other players in the past? A long time ago, years and years and years ago, when people were trying to instruct people on how to learn disc golf, they talked about this thing called the hit. I remember reading about the hit and hearing about it in videos and stuff all the way back in 1999, 2000, years ago, when the instruction for the sport was much more rudimentary. They were always talking about the hit, and I had no idea what that meant, because at the time, like so many people, I was spinning to throw the disc in a huge circle, and I was trying to figure out where to let go of it to make the disc go fast and as far as possible. But in a giant swing, where your arm is dragged all the way around your body and your brace is actually pointing in a different direction, there's no such thing as a hit. You may think that the disc is being torn out of your fingers, but really you just have a cue of where in your spin to let it go, kind of like a discus thrower almost. You're not feeling the hit at all. So to explain this feel, I figured that I would tell a little story. I'm going to get a little closer to the camera here. I'm going to tell you a story about The Matrix, Part 6. Not episode 5, which hasn't been made yet, but episode 6. We're going to call episode 6 Smith's Revenge, because maybe it's 2028 or 2029, and Lana and Lily Wachowski, the two genius auteurs behind the Matrix series, have kind of run out of ideas. And they're also trying to kind of make this movie for the ethos of the time. So instead of story and plot elements and even dialogue, it's basically 1 minute of dialogue and exposition and 119 minutes of pure violence. Smith's Revenge. And guess what? In this story, you are Neo. And you've been duking it out with Smith all over the city. You're destroying everything, of course, with the best CGI that money can buy. And after about an hour of pure violence, the two of you have a little discussion while you're standing in the middle of a town square. And then after a minute or so, it's straight back to the violence. And that's where we pick up in this story. Because you're standing there in the town square, and about a quarter mile away from you is Agent Smith. And Agent Smith has tried to shoot you with a gun, and he's failed. He's tried to shoot you with a machine gun, and he's failed. He's gotten in a helicopter and used a giant 50 caliber handheld thing on a turret to shoot you, and he's failed. And he's gotten in a tank and fired shells at you, and he's failed. And he's gotten a howitzer, and he's fired that. And every time, because you're Neo, you're just like bobbing and weaving and bullet timing your way from the projectiles. And he hasn't really honestly scratched you, but he's escalating and he's pissed off. And now Smith has something truly special. He's got a battleship, a fucking battleship. In fact, specifically, he's on the bridge of the Yamato, the biggest battleship probably ever built, at least in terms of its guns, built in 1942 by the Japanese Imperial Army. And Smith's on the bridge of the battleship of the Yamato, and he's got his finger coming down on the trigger to fire this gigantic shell at you. So the huge guns are pointed right at you. Smith presses the trigger. There's an enormous explosion of energy as the central gun on the Yamato, which is 18.1 inches in diameter, a foot and a half, imagine that, 60 feet long. The cannon itself weighs over 100 tons, unleashes pure energy and death right at you. And emerging from this huge bore comes a shell. It's probably the biggest shell ever made in the history of battleships or ship-to-ship warfare on the ocean. It is 3,200 pounds. It's taller than me. And it's moving at around 2,700 feet a second, which is like 2,000 miles an hour, about this, almost the same speed as an AR-15 bullet. Instead of one of those tiny little things, it's like as big as a car, and it's headed right for you from a quarter mile away. But you're Neo, of course, and as soon as you see this giant flash, you activate bullet time. And so instead of obliterating you in an instant, the shell emerges slowly, and it makes its way towards you. I'm going to just flip the frame of reference around. Imagine you're here and you're looking that way at the shell. And so it comes towards you, this torrent of pure energy, 3,200 pounds, more than a ton and a half, moving at 2,000 miles an hour. And you're in bullet time. So what do? You just step out of the way of it. And this huge shell lumbers past you, hovering in midair. And right as it comes up next to your head, you snap your fingers, because it's the Matrix Part 6, and you actually have the ability to stop time. You stop time, but you don't stop gravity. Everything still works. You're still Neo. You're still walking around in 1G of gravity. And yet the shell, with time frozen, is sitting in front of you, seemingly hovering in space. And you walk up to it. You walk up to this enormous bullet of pure energy, and you put your hand on it. And you rub your hand up and down the side. And then you come around behind it. Now keep in mind, there's nothing holding it in the air. Gravity still works, but there's nothing holding this thing in the air. There's no resistance in front of it. There's just air in front of it. And you put your hands up against the bullet and you start to push. And you push and you strain and you put your back into it. And nothing you do makes it move even 1 millimeter, even though it's sitting there hovering in space with nothing in front of it, nothing seemingly holding it up. And yet it resists all of your efforts to push it. You push harder and harder. Eventually you get in a car and you smash a car into it and the car breaks into a million pieces. You get in a semi-truck and you drive the semi at full speed at the bullet, and the whole semi accordions into it. And the reason why nothing can move or dislodge this object is because its inertial mass, as a consequence of how much energy is captive inside of it, is insane. It's probably tens of millions of pounds. Nothing can budge it. The reason why I'm telling you this story is because when you're looking for the hit, and when we talk about inertia in disc golf, you are creating that effect in the disc. The disc is the bullet. The disc is the bullet. And the mechanics, the biomechanics that I teach, that this system teaches to you, allows you to turn the disc into that. it allows you to feel the bullet for real. You can feel the inertial mass of the disc as you accelerate it properly. As you get it up to speed, as you gain confidence, and you start swinging faster and faster. And your arm, first, as you train, you start to feel that heaviness in your arm. And then when you attach the disc to it, that heaviness is amplified. And as I mentioned before, eventually you feel like you're swinging a big, meaty sledgehammer. So what's the consequence, though, of feeling the bullet? Your brain knows where that mass is. It actually anticipates it. So that when you're in your proper sequence, when you're balanced and athletic on your feet, and you know where the bullet is, you actually anticipate where that heaviness occurs. Your brain will know where it is. Everything that we observe in mostly upper body biomechanics, including where the left arm comes in, the activation of the left arm, the deep pocket, all of these things are all a consequence of anticipating the bullet. It's creating the shortest time frame of acceleration in your mind for your mind to trust that the object is going to be super, super heavy. Because when an object is super, super heavy, your brain trusts that it can throw it extremely hard. If you do not feel the bullet, if the bullet is fuzzy, if you haven't figured out where it is, then your brain will not trust that it can exert full energy into that point. It'll be murky. It won't give you the velocity. And if it doesn't give you the velocity, the feedback loop decays immediately. You don't get the heaviness. There's nothing to latch onto, and pretty soon you're swinging a paper plate and trying to spin around to produce the energy again and again and again. Feeling the bullet is at the key of this. I'll be referring to the bullet in future videos. And in fact, I have another video coming up in just a second. It is going to be called Finding the Bullet, because once you've felt the bullet for the first time, you need to train your brain to find it, depending on the situation, depending on coefficients of friction, depending on the intention of the throw, how hard you're trying to throw, and of course, depending on the disc you're using. Feeling the bullet and then finding the bullet. That'll be the subject for the next video. Thanks for your time and thanks for watching. The method's coming, guys. Can't wait. See you soon.